Eine Geschichte Deutschlands in 5 Objekten. History of Germany in 5 objects.
The Germans are the heroes of Europe, World Cup winners, economic powerhouse. But what about their past? Our best-loved history man has set himself the difficult task of persuading us to see beyond the dark record of the last century.
I think what we're trying to do is, first of all, insist on the complexity of German history, that it is many histories, and that means just memories rather than a history. But secondly, that Germany has been thinking about its past in the last 30, 40 years with a kind of intensity which is very rare, and thinking particularly about some of the most difficult aspects of its past.
Deutsche Wahrung. German currency.
When George I comes in 1714 from being Elector of Hanover to be King of Britain, he finds in Britain a unified country with only one currency for the whole of Britain, the gold coin that he's on. The Germany he leaves has something like 200. And every coin you see here is the coin of a separate political unit with its own laws, its own army, its own ruler, all held together very loosely under the Holy Roman Empire. But Germany is a series of lots and lots of different states. Each one of them has a different history.
Ein Nashorn aus Meissner Porzellan.
Germany's always been good at making difficult things, whether it's precision instruments like clocks or cars, but also, of course, one of the things Germany invents is porcelain. China had the monopoly, nobody knew how to make it. Saxony, around 1720, invents porcelain in Europe. And they immediately start doing the most difficult things you can do. But the fascinating thing is, of course, that this is not really a rhinoceros.
It's an imaginary rhinoceros.
It's an imaginary rhinoceros, but it's a rhinoceros that was imagined by Dürer. And Dürer makes the print around 1515, so 200 years before the porcelain. Dürer had never seen a rhinoceros either. And it's the Dürer rhinoceros in print that the Dresden porcelain sculptor chooses to make his sculpture.
Even though by then they would have known, presumably, that that was inaccurate.
Oh yes, by then they knew perfectly well what a rhinoceros really did look like. But it's more fun to make one that looks like Dürer.
Tischbeins Goethe. Tischbeins Goethe.
This is the most famous portrait in Germany. Pretty well everybody in Germany recognizes this as Goethe, the great German writer. What Goethe represents to Germany is the supreme example of a German interested in, curious about, open to the whole world. It's not just about Germany. The fact that the famous portrait of him is him in Italy tells you already a great deal. At the end of his life, he acquires a model of Stephenson's rocket. He thinks the railway is the future. And that's what makes him, I think, so interesting to Germans now, that he's a model of a cosmopolitan German, open to the world, interested in everything. Most Germans know a great deal about what happens in Britain. They're very well informed about our history, about our present, about what's going on.
You've said, I think, that you're not sure who will come to this exhibition, what interest there will be.
One of the difficulties, I think, for British people to engage with Germany as it is now is that the Germany they learn about at school is overwhelmingly the Germany of the Nazi Third Reich or the First World War. Both of those were, of course, extraordinary and exceptional moments in German history. They're also history that the Germans themselves have thought about a great deal and taken a distance from.
Tor des Konzentrationslagers Buchenwald. Buchenwald Gate.
You have here the entrance gate to the concentration camp at Buchenwald. And we wanted to choose this concentration camp, which is by no means the worst, and not an extermination camp, because it's from the same city as Goethe. The highest point of German culture is also where this happens. And that's the big question of German history. What we wanted to show was that fundamental problem that side by side in the exhibition are Goethe, the Bauhaus and Buchenwald, all in Weimar. And every German has to ask themselves the question, we all have to ask ourselves the question, how can those three things coexist?
Barlachs schwebender Engel. Barlachs Angel.
In Britain, our monuments are about our heroic past, the moments of the past that we're very proud of. The Germans, very fascinatingly, put up monuments to their own shame. And that makes them, I think, very different from almost any other country. And they do that as a reminder of how they ought to behave in the future.
A case in point, this memorial of the Great War, a grieving mother floating over the battlefield searching for her dead. The Nazis hated it and had it melted down, but another copy was struck from the cast. The statue later became a symbol of reconciliation between the former East and West Germanys.
Chancellor Schmidt, on his first visit to East Germany, wanted to meet Honecker, the head of East Germany, under this statue. So in this statue is embodied a great deal of the history of Germany in the 20th century. No other country that I know looks at what went wrong in order to get it better in the future.
Very good. Thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you very much.